Hi everyone, good day. So today I'm going to be showing us the third workflow for this project. So from the last time that we talked about this project, which is the first flow and the second flow, the first flow is when the client submits their details about their property and all. So they decide to, and the company got the lead details. So now here is the first approach where the company got their email. So here they fill the form for the lead capture, and the company got the email. Now once they got the email and they send a reply to the client that they will be in touch, they set up the a quote is being sent to the team. So they will send a quote to the styling team. So the styling team go to the property for viewing, to assess some the property, and then provide the quote for that particular property assessment. So once the styling team has provided the quote for that particular assessment, so here is where, so after the quote has been filled by the styling team, this particular workflow is going to be triggered, which is the quoting workflow. The workflow is to send a quote back to the client to tell them the quotes that they have written for this particular property assessment of that particular client. Now, after they've done that and the owner of that property has gotten the quotes for the apartment assessment from the styling team, we are creating an event. This event is to follow up. The company should follow up later in 24 or 48 hours after the quote has been sent to the client back. Now, after we've done that, we are going to now start from the third workflow. So this third workflow is when they have gotten the quotes. So they have gotten the quote and they decided to proceed with the quote. So here, so once they got the quote, so here is the quote PDF. And once they got the quote, and then we have a button here, either to accept or to decline. So once we accept, we are going to fill so here is the quote. Now they are going to accept. Now want to accept. So this is the accept flow. The accept flow here is going to trigger the request. Once it's triggered, it's going to get the record. Once you get the record, to check if that particular job item exists. If it exists, it's formatted the invoice, and once it formatted the invoice, we have our to check if that particular quote has been accepted before. So we don't want to accept the quote twice. So here is checking if the quote has been accepted. If it has been accepted, then it goes to the webhook response webhook. If not, it's going to create an invoice. So here is to check if the client, we want to create a client before we create an invoice. So it's going to create a client. So it's checking if the client exists. Then we are not going to create the client again. We just go and create the invoice for the client. And if the client does not exist, so we are going to create the client. So in this place, we are using Ninja Invoice. So Ninja Invoice, you can use it to create a client and invoice for the client. So once the client does not exist, it's going to create the client and then create an invoice for that client. Now we go to here. Here is going to update the credentials to the date it was accepted, with the quote total and also the status to accepted. So once it does that, we are updating the follow-up, which is the quote follow-up in this place. We are updating the follow-up to be closed, so that we can know that this has been accepted and this quote follow-up is not needed anymore. So once we do that, then we delete the event that was created for the follow-up, and then we send a form to the client and also the agent. So this form contains of the access and the logistic form to the property for the styling crew to have access to, so in case they want to start doing some things in the apartment. So that is how the flow, and we have our last, which is the response to webbook, to end the flow. So once we do that now, we are going to see how it's going to be. So let me go to here, go to this place. So here we have, so let me just, so I want to remove this and then I want to unpin this. So once we unpin that, now I'll go to the form. So this is the form that the client got, that that contains the codes uh, given by the styling team after the property assessment. So they are going to accept. So once we accept, it's going to trigger this workflow and run. So let's go. So I'm going to click on accept. Okay, sorry, not start the workflow. So I'm going to start the workflow. So I'm going to click on accept. Okay, so yes, said what? Look at, we get the email. It said email sent successfully to both the client and agent. So once we do that, we will see our workflow now, which has run. So here the client exists. So the client exists, and it just proceeded to create an invoice. It updated the record, it updated the code flow, and it deleted the event. Then it sent the form of the access and logistic form to the client, and then response back with our webbook. So if we go to our database, you can see it's already updated this to close. And if we go to our leads, we should see that our quote has been accepted, and also our quote total has been added, and the accepted date is what is today. So once we've been able to do that now, then the client is going to get an email of the assessment and logic form. So this is the assessment and logic form, which says, hi Adon Life, please take a moment to fill the form. It covers your preferred installation dates, how the crew will get in. So these credentials are what the styling crew will use to have information to get into the apartment. So once we click on that, so here now is going to trigger fourth uh this fourth workflow, which is the fourth workflow. The fourth workflow is still related to when they've accepted the codes. So here we have our logistic form. I'm going to remove this, and so it's going to trigger. So we've picked the form, so I'm going to give it a date of 10th July 10th. So say key safe. I'm going to give it a key. I'm going to say yes, yes, no, and then parking at the wrong side is prohibited. So once I do that, now we go to our fourth workflow now. So I'm going to run this. So we'll see how it's going to run. Now in our database, we have the installation date, the access method, the access code, the lift access, the lift booking required. So these are the data that we got it from this access and logistic form that was sent to the client. So now we are going to run we are going to submit this form. So once we submit this form, it's going to execute this fourth workflow. So I'm going to submit. So once I submit, yes, so you can see now that, so after they've submitted logistic and access form, it triggered this fourth workflow, and we send the email to the company to say that this form has been filled, so that they can give the styling team, so before they visit the apartment. So once we go to, so let's go to our email, and so go to our email. So yeah, so now we've gotten the, so after they fill the form, we've gotten the, so here we are sending an email of the parking list. These are the things that was selected in the, when the styling team went for the property assessment, and then wrote a code for that assessment, for that property access. So here are the codes that was given, and here's the email that was sent to it, and they also create, so an event is going to be created for that, for the installation date. So we are using the date of the installation, which is 10th, which is the date that was installed, and to which span across the second day of that event. So that will be the flow for this third workflow, which is to accept the codes after the styling team has sent the codes to the client, and then send the logistic form and access to the client, and then the client fill the form and then send it back to the company. So that is for this workflow. Thank you very much, and bye.